that it could have been 3 containers on the premises. At least the information that was relayed. It comes across later on when we get affidavits from people from Scania that were expecting 3 containers. Whether they would have arrived the same day or a day before, that's something else.
Yeah, that's what I'm clarifying. You're not saying that the evidence is that at the time of this incident that is happening on the premises of Scania, there was another 2 containers that the dogs would have helped to sniff out. You're not saying
No, we're not saying that.
Okay.
We're just saying to an extent that there could have been, a dog could have, but that's as high as it goes. But there's no evidence to suggest that there were more than that.
Please correct me, I may be misunderstanding the rest of the evidence. My understanding was that the vessel coming in with a container, with containers, or this particular container even, there were other 3 containers that were going with this particular one, but only one came up to Gauteng to become an issue in this case.
We don't know. That's the difficulty,
Okay.
Commissioner. What became of those 2? Whether they stayed there or they moved prior to the 9th or the 8th, it remains a question.
So is the point that the dogs would have been used on more than just the one container that contained the suspected drugs or the suspected cocaine? So they would have sniffed at a minimum of 3 containers on the day.
For what it's worth, Chair.
On the day.
For what it's worth. But remember, I still have the reservation to say, but even the person who stopped the dogs is Rekotso. It has nothing to do with the 5 accused in any event.
But to leap to that conclusion, you would have to assume that on the day at Scania, there were, in addition to this container, 2 other containers. Because if you were saying they might still be coming 2 or 3 days later, calling the dogs on that day actually makes no sense.
No, that's perfectly true, Commissioner.
And from what we saw, there was not another container that came from Durban on that day that was in the premises. Because if it was there, the policemen who were there would have searched those containers, even without the dogs.
That's all I can take it as far as that.
We may not have seen others, at least in the pictures we were shown, but even if there were, the focus was just on this one, on the evidence before us. Yeah. Thank you. So I don't think that assists you, Assistant Director.
Commissioners, in fact, that whole thing, they were expecting 11 containers. But they are saying from these 11 containers, 3 of those containers, 2 had drugs and 1 had firearms. So the thing is, I didn't even see the photo album of the crime scene on the day of incident, so I cannot say much.
Thank you.
But what we do know is Mr. Nku's information related to this one container, that one that he followed all the way from Durban, and he parked inside Scania to watch its unloading. At least we know that much, that their interest in this operation that plays out in Ayrton was on this one container.
And so was the interest of Chief Mashaba and Warrant Officer Mohana, just this one container.
Yes, I'm not sure about the 2 containers, whether it was on the same day or the previous day, or I don't know.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, Mr. Musigiri.
Thank you, Chair. Assistant Director, I want us to move then to the next subtopic on page 7, where we deal with a request for copies of docket Boys and Cars 98/7, 2021. Can you then pick it up from paragraph 19 and read that into the record, please?
On 2021-10-21, I've made contact with investigating office of DPCI Captain Sibula, requesting the copy of the docket. He said we must come to his office at Germiston on 2021-10-22 to collect it. That is like the following day. My colleague and I went to Germiston as agreed, but to our surprise, on our arrival, Captain Sibula was not in the office. He was contacted on his cell phone and he indicated that he was not going to give IPID copies of the docket, copy of the docket.
I just find out, well, surely there is a protocol of how you go about getting dockets. We had Colonel Sibula earlier before you testifying, and part of his justification why there is a formality or there has to be a formality was that anyone could call and want a document out of a docket, and if there are no formal ways of doing it, then people could just end up sharing documents in a docket without more into it. It sort of seems to make sense, that kind of explanation, and so I would expect that you have protocols of how do you get a docket out of the SAPS for your investigations.
Okay. Commissioners, with regard to getting the copies of the docket, an investigator can just go to the police station, or maybe you call to find out as to who is the investigating officer first to make that kind of arrangement. So what we normally do when we arrive at the police station or whatever unit of the SAPS, they normally take the picture of our appointment cards to say this person, I gave the copies of the docket to this particular person. But there's no issue of saying you must request the copies of the docket from the commander, because as IPID we rely on section 29 subsection 2 of the IPID Act that talks of cooperation, that SAPS must cooperate with IPID. So there's nothing like that we must maybe request the dockets from the commander. You can only do that if maybe I know the commander of that particular police station and I don't know who's the investigating officer of the case. Then I can liaise with the commander.
And there's no requirement for certain form that it must take. There's nothing like you have to do it in writing, even if it's an email. There's nothing like that.
Nothing, Commissioner.
Perhaps you should have, so that you don't have Colonel Sibula appearing and saying, I never got such a request.
No.
So maybe you should have some kind of protocol.
Maybe that one can be addressed in terms of maybe fixing our standard operating procedures.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right.
It
Thank
can be
you.
a standard way of doing things.
Thank you.
And to be fair to you, this letter on page 34, assuming you had not asked for it formally, by the time you got to this November letter on page 34, it's in writing from your director to General Libya, and you are making it clear there that you are asking for this docket. So even if one accepts that in October you did not follow a formal process, within a month you write to General Libya, and it's a formal letter from your director saying, please intervene, we're looking for this docket.
Yes.
For the purposes of this inquiry we are conducting.
That's correct, Commissioner.
Yes, you may proceed.